Episode 1, Part 1. The envelope on the kitchen table. Disclaimer. This story is fictional but inspired by real life emotional experiences. It is shared to educate, inspire hope, and promote mental health awareness. If this story resonates with you, know that healing is possible and help is available. Every home has a story. Every heart carries a burden. Welcome to Stories That Heal, where every story opens door to healing. I am Evaristus Fortindom, a licensed professional counselor. When Sarah walked into the kitchen that Tuesday evening, she noticed an envelope lying on the table. At first glance, it looked ordinary, but somehow she already knew what it contained. Slowly, she picked it up, turned it over, and sighed. Another overdue bill. She didn't even have to open it. Over the past several months, envelopes like this had become all too familiar, one after another. Electricity, credit card, medical bills, mortgage reminders. Each envelope carried more than numbers. It carried worry. It carried fear. It carried questions she didn't know how to answer. She looked towards the front door. Michael will be home soon. For a brief moment, she considered hiding the envelope. Maybe if he didn't see it tonight, they could enjoy just one peaceful evening together. But deep inside, she knew the bill wasn't the real problem. The real problem was what financial pressure had quietly started doing to their family. Their conversations had become shorter. Their laughter had become less frequent. Even simple discussion now felt heavy. Money had become the visible guest getting at their dinner table every single night. Sarah gently placed the envelope back where she found it. Then she whispered to herself, "Something has to change." Little did she know, this envelope would become the beginning of a conversation that would change their lives forever. To be continued. Episode 1, Part 2. The silence between them. Michael walked into the house, carrying the weight of another long day at work. The moment he stepped into the kitchen, his eyes fell on the envelope. He didn't have to ask what it was. He already knew. Without saying a word, he sat down at the table. Sarah placed dinner in front of him. Neither of them mentioned the bill. Instead, they talked about the children. They talked about school. They talked about the weather. Anything except one thing that was occupying both of their minds. The silence between them wasn't peaceful. It was heavy. Each of them was trying to protect the other from more stress. But in doing so, they were slowly drifting apart. That night, after the children had gone to bed, Michael sat alone in the living room. He stared at the ceiling. Question raced through his mind. Am I failing my family? Will we ever get out of this? What if I lose my job? In the bedroom, Sarah lay awake. She wasn't thinking about the bee anymore. She was thinking about Michael. She had noticed he smiled less. He laughed less. He hardly slept through the night. She wanted to tell him everything would be okay, but she wasn't sure she believed those words herself. Sometimes the greatest burden isn't the financial problem itself. Sometimes it's believing you have to carry it alone. To be continued. Episode 1, Part 3. The breaking point. The next morning began like every other morning. The children got ready for school. Breakfast was rushed. Everyone smiled, but no one was truly at peace. As Michael prepared to leave for work, Sarah quietly handed him the unopened envelope. He looked at it for a moment. Then he placed it back on the table. I can't deal with this right now, he said softly. Sarah felt something inside her break. It wasn't because of the bill. It was because for the first time, she realized they were no longer facing life's challenges together. They were facing them alone, even while living under the same roof. That evening, Michael came home exhausted. He found Sarah sitting quietly at the kitchen table. The envelope was still there. Neither of them reached for it. Finally, Sarah looked at him and said, Michael, I don't think I missed the money. She paused. I miss us. Those 3 words filled the room with silence. Michael lowered his head. Tears began to gather in his eyes. Not because he was sick or weak, but because he had been carrying fear, shame, and disappointment for so long that he no longer knew how to talk about them. For the first time in months, neither of them pretended to be okay. To be continued. Episode 1, Part 4. Choosing each other again. That night, Sarah and Michael sat at the kitchen table long after the children had gone to bed. For the first time in months, there were no accusations, no blames, no pretending, just two people who were tired, but willing to fight for each other instead of against each other. Michael took a deep breath. I have been so focused on fixing our finances that I forgot to protect our relationship. Sarah squeezed his hands. And I have been so afraid of becoming another burden that I stopped sharing what I was feeling. For a moment, neither of them spoke. They simply sat there, holding hands. It wasn't a solution to their financial problems. The bills were still there. The uncertainty was still there. But something important changed. They were no longer carrying the burden alone. Before going to bed, they made a simple promise. No more silence. No more pretending we are okay. From today forward, we face every challenge together. As Sarah turned off the kitchen light, she looked back at the table. The envelope was still there. But somehow, it didn't seem nearly as frightening as it had the night before. Sometimes, hope doesn't arrive because our circumstances change. Sometimes, hope arrives because our hearts do. To be continued. Episode 1, Part 5. Healing begins. The weeks that followed were not easy. The bills didn't disappear overnight. Life didn't suddenly become perfect. But something inside Sarah and Michael had changed. They had stopped fighting each other and started fighting their problems together. Every Sunday evening, they sat at the same kitchen table. They talked openly about their finances. They prayed together. They made budget together. They celebrated every small victory together. Slowly, the fear that had once filled their home began to lose its power. One evening, Sarah smiled as she looked at Michael. It was never really about the envelope, she said. Michael smiled back. No, it was about remembering that we were always on the same team. Sometimes the greatest victory is refusing to let life's struggle steal the love that brought two people together in the first place. Therapist reflection. As a licensed professional counselor, I have seen how financial stress can quietly affect relationships, emotional well being, and even physical health. Many people suffer in silence because they feel ashamed or believed they must carry every burden alone. But healing often begins with one honest conversation. If you are struggling today, don't wait until everything is perfect before you reach out for support. You don't have to face life challenges alone. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who may need help. Remember, healing begins with one conversation. Until next time, take care of your mind, protect your peace, don't and never lose hope. This is Stories That Heal. I will see you in the next episode.